What we saw just last year is the Japanese Communist Party, yes, there's a Communist Party in Japan, released a report or raised accusations that there was some illegal fundraising going on by the Liberal Democratic Party in some of the factions and some of the politicians. And this went under investigation. And we saw a professor here in Japan really push the envelope in terms of trying to bring some clarity to the fundraising, potentially illegal fundraising. And this is where we are today. 4 cabinet members have stepped down. The previous Prime Minister Abe's faction is really on its back feet, and the Japanese political establishment is trying to find some clarity with regards to this fundraising scandal.
And has this loss of those 4 ministers helped at all to restore public faith and trust in the government, do you think?
Well, what happens during these scandals, we see the Prime Minister often shuffle the cabinet or change the cabinet members. And we've seen the former Foreign Minister, Hayashi, become the chief cabinet minister. And I think that this bodes well in terms of legitimacy within the Japanese society. The problem is it really hasn't shifted the needle in terms of how Japanese citizens see the problems with dirty money or this kind of murky fundraising in terms of in the political establishment. It's something that's been around for a long time, and for the public that is concerned about transparency and corruption, they certainly are not supportive of these kinds of initiatives, and the cabinet shuffle is not going to change that.
And in recent days now we've seen the offices of 2 Liberal Democratic Party factions being raided. Do you have any idea how much longer this whole debacle could drag on?
Well, we're likely to see the opposition parties use the fundraising scandal to try and bring some clarity and transparency to the government. They would like to see Prime Minister Kishida leave office. Frankly, I think some of the LDP members as well would like to see a change in leadership within the LDP and put forward a new leader that has a new vision that will chart a more proactive Japanese domestic and foreign policy moving forward. The problem here is the opposition parties are weak, and within the LDP itself, there's really isn't somebody that's waiting to take over from Prime Minister Kishida. So we have bad choices, and of the bad choices that the Japanese public know, they're likely to continue with the LDP.
And of course, that's the big question, Stephen. What could this all mean for Kishida's future? He's already seen public support drop dramatically for him. He's also survived similar scandals in the past, though. Do you think his days in office are numbered?
Well, I think the scandal is not directly targeted at him per se, but some of his cabinet members. And I think that demonstrates his judgment is somewhat challenged because he must have known something about these fundraising scandals. But in terms of his longevity as prime minister, that will really depend on if there is a major change in Japan's economic fortunes, or if there's some kind of black swan that will require him to raise his leadership again. And we saw this leadership capability in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He took a strong position to push back against Russia's invasion and support the Ukrainians and eventually bring Vladimir Zelensky to the G7. And this bolstered his ratings at home. If something similar happens, he could stay in power longer, or we're likely to see a shift in power maybe in March or April to ensure that there is stable leadership moving into the U.S. elections that is scheduled for the fall.
Fumio Kishida doesn't have to actually hold an election till 2025. Is he likely to stand again for the leadership, and who could be his rivals who stand against him?
Well, like Australia and Canada, Japan has a parliamentary system, so the party chooses and supports the leader. And if they decide to remove him from the premiership, he will have to leave. He may not hold an election, but the practice in general is for him to hold an election before the LDP presidential election this coming September, or next coming September. So I think that in reality, we're likely to see a new prime minister come about, but we're not likely to see a major shift in Japanese foreign policy or domestic policy. These are locked in because of domestic stakeholders. And again, Japan's, I think, leadership role in the Indo-Pacific in terms of trying to chart open this idea of a free and open, rules-based Indo-Pacific region. This is shared by the parties. It's shared deeply within LDP and partners and allies like the Australians. are supportive of Japan's approach, at least on the foreign policy front.
Stephen Nagy, thank you for speaking with The World.
Thank you so much.